Welcome to Between Two Coaches, a digital mentors podcast for visionary coaches, consultants, authors, and experts building purpose-driven businesses. I am your host, Norbert Orlewicz, co-founder of Digital Mentors. And in every episode, we dive into real, unfiltered conversations with thought leaders, mentors, and catalysts who are reshaping the way that we teach, lead, and grow. Now, today's episode is sponsored by the Clients and Cashflow Collab. If your content isn't converting like it used to, if ads feel more expensive and less predictable, if you're doing more but seeing less return, it's not just you, the market has shifted. The Clients Cashflow Collab is a 3-day virtual business reset happening March 4th to 6th. 8 experienced online entrepreneurs are coming together to show what's working in 2026 to attract clients and create consistent cash flow. This is a curated training, 3.5 hours each day, built around messaging, conversations, collaboration, and conversion. It's just $7 to attend. Recordings are included, and you will leave with a focused 90-day acquisition plan you can actually execute. Grab your seat at clientscashflowcollab.com. Again, that is clientscashflowcollab.com. All right, today's guest is Alex Sanfilippo. I'm very excited to have this gentleman on our show here today. Alex is a well-known podcaster, the founder of PodMatch, which is a platform that connects podcast hosts and guests for meaningful interviews. Through PodMatch and his show, Podcasting Made Simple, Alex helps independent podcasters on both sides of the microphone grow their influence, their authority, and their revenue in a sustainable and enjoyable way. Today, he's known for championing independent creators and leading from the front line as a founder who stays deeply connected to his community. Alex, welcome to the show.
Norbert, thank you so much for having me. And that was such a great introduction, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. I'm excited for this conversation. You've had quite the journey into entrepreneurship and quite the journey in the last couple of years with PodMatch. I've been watching it grow over the last couple of years. I became a member about a year ago, and finally started using it a few months. And I have to say, I'm one of your biggest fans. I think it's an amazing service. I think it's a service that's so needed in the industry. And I just love the way that you are leading and showing up. You're just such a testament to the founder-led brand, the founder-led companies. I think you're doing a really excellent job there. Let's start off with kind of a bit of a thought-provoking question, and we'll kind of take it from there. Alex, I typically ask this about coaching industry specifically, but I'm going to ask this about podcasting. Why do you think podcasting is more relevant and more important today in 2026 than ever before?
Norbert, I got to say, I listened to your podcast. So I was prepared for that thought-provoking question to come up. I had no idea where it was going to go. But I like that you're asking this because I think that it's important in today's world to talk about, is podcasting becoming more or less relevant? And there has been so many talks over different points in time. I remember when podcasting came out in 2001 or 2 or 3, whenever it came out, a long time ago. But there was this talk of now blogging's a thing. Is podcasting still going to get popular? And then, now there's all these different apps we can stream TV from. Is podcasting still going to be a thing? This same question has come up many times. And the most recent one was, you can have podcasts on YouTube now. So is podcasting still a thing? So through all these things that have happened over the years, and including at time of recording this, everything just continues to elevate podcasting more and more. If you look at some of the industry reports, and there's plenty of them, you could go to any search engine or AI and type in podcasting industry report, listenership data is what I'd specifically look for. There's a bunch of them now at this point that have very credible reputations. And you'll see that year over year, the amount of people listening to podcasts is rapidly climbing. And in many ways, it's become one of the most well-received forms of mainstream media. I'm calling it mainstream media now. 3 years ago, I couldn't have said that. If we go back to even 2022, let's go to that year, it was still kind of on the cusp, and now we're really seeing it show up. And to me, I think that it's more relevant because we're seeing people listening more, but it's also mentioned in any other form of media. So TV, movies, songs, people are referencing podcasting. And my favorite part about it, though, to kind of wrap this up, the thing that I just love about podcasting the most is that if somebody's going to start playing a podcast, they're going to listen to it, they're doing it with some sort of intention. There's a result that they want from it. And at the same time, it's in your ears. If you think about it, every other form of media is far more intrusive than podcasting. It wants your eyes. It wants something else to be involved, right? It needs you to be stagnant. Podcasting allows you to consume what you're looking to learn or how you're looking to laugh, whatever it is, while you're on a walk, while you're cooking, while you're cleaning, while you're doing chores, whatever it is, like while you're working out. It's not telling you, hey, give us your full attention. It wants just a little bit so that you can really learn a lot. That to me makes it a beautiful medium that I don't see going away anytime soon. And again, the data is showing it's not going anywhere negative anytime soon. It's becoming more a focal point of so many households.
I think when we understand that podcasting isn't just a gimmick or a fad or podcasting, it is a medium. I love the way that you describe that. And it's a very unique medium. And I think that's why it stood the test of time. And that's why I don't think there's anything that's going to replace it because of the specific medium that it is. But Alex, I mean, I understand you're excited about podcasts, but why do we need another podcast, Alex? Everyone has a podcast. Everyone's starting their own podcast. There's people that should not have podcasts that have podcasts. Why do we need another podcast? Why should, if as a coach, consultant, service provider, why should I even consider going on podcasts or, God forbid, start my own podcast?
Yeah. So this comes up a lot. The words, oh, I would start a podcast or I'd be a guest on a podcast, but it's already so saturated. And I hear that almost every day. And the reality is, again, if you go look at data, and I'll give everyone a specific report for this one because this data is a little harder to find, but it's one that me and my team put together. It's podmatch.com/report, podmatch.com/report. We update it every month. And one of the key things we look at is how many total podcasts are there, and then how many podcasts are actually active. And we take it deeper and deeper, but I do want to share at time of recording this, and I feel very comfortable. This is almost evergreen, but the amount of total podcasts out there has not climbed in a long time. We saw a huge jump in 2020, and for years ever since, it's climbed just a little bit. And here's the reason I say that. You can look at Spotify's numbers, you can look at Podcast Index is another one, but I look specifically at Apple Podcast, and here's why. Apple Podcast has a human element to validating a podcast before it can go on the platform. So the other platforms, as great as they might be, I'm not trying to talk bad about any platform, but to have a podcast on Spotify, all you have to do is say into a microphone, test, is this thing on? And hit post. And they consider that is qualified as a podcast. Apple Podcasts will not allow that on their platform. So there's no like test 1, 2, is this thing working? I'll make more episodes later. And then you never post anything again. And so for me, when I look at Apple's number, I'm like, okay, a human has validated that this is actually considered a podcast. And so there's at any given time, there's around 4 million. They remove some that start breaking terms, some get added, but it's around 4 million total podcasts. And again, that number does sound like a lot, but let's flip and look how many of them are active. There's around 400,000 that are active at any given time. And again, that number actually fluctuates even more. So you'll see between like 380 to 400,000 active podcasts. And that's kind of where it's flown for years now because people it's called pod fading in the business. So people pod fade. And so if you think about there's 380,000 podcasts, but all the different verticals, niches, topics that people like to cover, everyone's unique experience, whose friends listen to what podcasts, like you think about that number isn't that many when you think of the hundreds of millions of people who are listening to podcasts every week, right? Like you just kind of think about like, oh, that's actually not that much. And the reality is even of that, let's just say 400,000 active shows, the mass majority of those filter in and out every month. There's not that many that we consider what we call actively established, like a show that is there that is going to make it. When you pull the celebrity and big network shows out, it's about 37,000 shows in total. So like that's narrowing it down even more. And that's the people that are saying, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to keep this thing going for the test of time. And again, that report has so much more data and it dives down into it. But the reality is podcasting is not saturated. There's still plenty of gaps. And the reason I know that is when podcast guests show up and say, hey, Alex, I can't find any podcast specifically about this. And I'll go do my own search. I'm like, oh, well, there's no podcast about that. So there's no podcast for you to guest on. But guess what? Maybe you should start that one because it doesn't exist yet. And just to share some data on the guesting side, the churn rate of guests, the amount of people meaning they start and then they stop, is even more aggressive than the podcast hosting side. I would say there's more people trying to be a podcast guest. Data shows that. But the amount of people who get on one show or 0 shows and then call it quits is the far mass majority of them. So same thing. We need someone to show up who has real expertise, who says, hey, it might have some tension and some friction involved in getting on shows, but I'm going to do this consistently for the next few years to see if I can show up and add value. There just isn't a whole lot of that yet.
Yeah. All right. So as someone who's been consistent with podcasts now for a few years, hosting your own and guesting extensively as well, I mean, this seems to be like when I think about your role, I'm sure there's lots that you do as the founder of the company, but you seem to do a lot of podcasts. Like that is one of the main activities that you do. Let's talk to the coaches, consultants, service providers who are thinking about their marketing strategies, because we've got to generate leads, we got to grow revenue, grow our audience, grow our impact. And there's lots of different ways that we can do it. There's lots of experts and gurus giving us different advice on what should we do. What should we be doing? Should we be dancing on TikTok? Should we be prospecting on LinkedIn? Should we be building a YouTube channel? Should we be podcasting? From your perspective, who is, and let's talk about podcast guesting first, because that's, I think, the more accessible avenue for most coaches. How should I go about considering, should I commit to this strategy? What is my ROI? What's the reality of having success with this strategy, and not just let me try it for 30 days and see what happens?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you said it that way. Try for 30 days and see what happens. I can tell you nothing is what happens. It's a long-term strategy. And in my experience in life and in business, there's very few things that are worthwhile to do that are not a long-term strategy, right? Like the quick fix, the hack, like that stuff pays very little dividends, but it's slow and steady wins the race, I think is the way to say it. And so for me, podcast guesting is that same thing. And yet you don't have a show, so you don't necessarily have to be there every Tuesday at 10 a.m. or whatever you decide to do, right? But you do need to come up with some sort of cadence that works for you. The first benefits I want to mention are what I call the hidden values of podcast guesting. The things that we just really don't think about when we're getting into it. Because we all think like, okay, audience, get in front of more people. And I'll share that in a minute. Before I do that, I think the number one thing is the fact that you get to discover your voice a little bit further.
Yes.
Like right?
Yeah, huge.
Isn't it? Like, man, I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Like it really, think about like, you're going to ask me questions today, Norbert, that no one's ever asked me before. And now on the fly, I'm going to come up with it. Like, it's going to be my expertise, but I'm going to come up with a way to articulate that I never have before. That makes me a better communicator. Like, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah. This is about putting in the reps. So I work with a lot of coaches who are transitioning from corporate into coaching. They're starting, or they've been trying to start and not having a lot of success. And if I just ask them, what is it that you do? Explain to me what you do. 90% of the coaches that I speak to cannot eloquently, confidently, and clearly explain what they do in simple terms. You guys need to be podcast guesting, because you need to put in the reps. You need to talk about what you do with more people over a longer period of time. And that's why I think, honestly, that is one of the biggest benefits, because it creates that confidence. The reason me and Alex can banter back and forth and have this conversation without a lot of thinking is because both of us have been speaking on these topics for many years. We've just put in the reps. That's all it is. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That's a huge benefit as just a side benefit. So let's talk about the others.
Yeah. So the other two hidden values I'll share, they're a little bit quicker. One is that you're building great connections. Like, Norbert, you and I met through podcasting. Like, you've been part of PodMatch. I've spoken at one of your events. Sounds like I'll have another opportunity in the future, which I'm grateful for. Like, it's cool. You're going to come on my podcast. Like, we're going to get these opportunities to do things. We're building connections out of this. And if it weren't for podcasting, you and I would not have met. Like, I don't think we would have never crossed paths. But the reality is we can help each other a lot, and we can help each other through serving the people that each of us serve. Like, that connection is huge. Like, forget about the listeners. It's you and that host if you're a guest. And the third and final one I'll mention here is the SEO benefit. Like, so many people don't really think about like what this does for your reputation. But if this episode comes out and my website is referenced in the show notes of this podcast somewhere, now I'm getting backlinks from Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and about 2,000 other super high domain authority websites. And a lot of people just don't think about that. So with 0 people listening, let's just imagine no one ever hears this. This was already worthwhile. There will be another conversation or another connection I need, or some sort of way that my website needs to get boosted on search engines AI that this will help with. And so like, those are the hidden benefits that some people will kind of want to like breeze over and forget about. But in my mind, it's already second to none just by that. I don't know if you have anything you want to add there before I get into like the more public facing ones, but
no, that's great. I mean, all three are super, super powerful, and we don't even take, and I love the way you said it. Even if nobody even listens to this, we already have benefits just from doing it. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Beyond that, like, I guess this one's not a hidden benefit, but like, even if no one hears it, but let's imagine you give me a copy of the audio, the video, clips from it, quotes from it.
Content.
Podcast hosts can get all that now. Like, if you're that coach and you're like, I'm transitioning from corporate, I don't have a lot of time. Maybe you still have that job and it's kind of like a side hustle thing, or just make that transition. The last thing you want to do is make a whole bunch of content. Well, if you spoke it in a room and somebody's like, here's all these assets that you created, you can now share that pretty easily. And it's powerful stuff. I mean, you could easily get a month worth of content from one podcast interview. And I
Yeah.
think that too many people, they kind of brush over that and don't think about it. But like that's huge. And then on to the actual listeners themselves. People who listen to podcasts and hear you on it, you're developing know, like, and trust with those individuals so much faster than any other way, because it's not a short 30-second clip or a little quote that you have or a testimonial. All those things are great and I think needed, but it gives someone 30, 45 minutes of an introduction to you, of getting to hear your voice, hearing how you think. And they're deciding, do I feel like I know this person? Do I like this person? Can I trust them? In 40 minutes, most people can come up with a conclusion. I think they can come up with it in a much shorter time than that. But the reality is people now know, okay, I really like this Norbert guy. Like there's something here that maybe we can do more together. You're
Mhm.
able to develop that really quick. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And the last thing is just getting your message out to the world. Like whatever it is that you're doing, like you actually can impact listeners' lives, whether they turn into clients, or whatever it is, you're building a legacy. Like this is out in the internet forever now, right? And people will find it in years to come. I can think of times I've been on podcast and years later, someone sends me an email saying, I heard you on this show. And sometimes I'll be honest, I didn't even remember I was on that show. I
Yeah.
go back and I'm like, wow, that was 3 years ago. And someone just heard it. Like it's legacy building stuff. And to me, these are some of the biggest benefits I'm seeing right now in podcast guesting.
All right. What are some of the mistakes that most people make when they think about guesting on podcasts? I mean, obviously, the first mistake is they don't stick with it long enough. But what are the big mistakes that we're making here when we're approaching podcast guesting?
Yeah. The first one is the outreach. So like if you're like, oh, I want to be on 100 shows, I think it's better to say I want to be like on one show a month or two shows a month or one a week, whatever you decide you want to do, than saying I want to be on 100 shows, because that kind of makes it feel transactional, even internally. So for me, like I shoot for right now, I shoot for 4 podcasts a month to be a guest on. That's what I go for. And so like if I have those, I'm good. I'll keep on moving. But we kind of go like I want to get on 100 shows, so we go the spray and pray method, where it's like I'll use AI and I'll come up with a pitch and I'll copy paste that thing to everyone I can find, like, and hope for the best. And I think this is the first reason people quit, because they'll send it to 100 and 0 respond. And you're like, okay, what's going on? It's too saturated, right? No, the reality is 100 other people did that same thing. They probably wrote up the same exact pitch because AI is like, yeah, I just did this for someone else. I got you, like they're copy pasting in the background. And so I think the first thing that's important is to really look at it as a relationship from the first time you reach out. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes is you start building that relationship from the first moment you're reaching out or they're reaching out to you. So you want it to feel human. You want them to know the experience they're going to have. I've made the mistake of having guests on my podcast that went the AI route. Maybe I just didn't know or was naive to it. They seemed so interesting, I didn't mind. But then we get to the room where we're getting ready to record, like where me and Norbert are right now, and the person didn't know my name. And I got 5 or 6 different emails from them saying, I love your show, love everything you're doing. They didn't know who I was. They just blasted out to everyone they could. That made for a very bad experience and chip on my shoulder from the second I hit record. Like we did it, and the reality is it just wasn't the best. And I think that transcends into the listeners' minds as well. Like they can kind of feel that.
Yeah.
So you got to have a human approach from the start. And I think that's, in my mind, probably the biggest mistake. The next one I'll share right along with that goes hand in hand is doing your research. So right after you're reaching out, like if it's going to be a yes, like do your research, do your time. So example, I love to listen to podcasts, and that's probably obvious to say, but I've only been listening to Between Two Coaches for the last, I don't know, short set amount of time, because I knew I was going to be on this show today. And so what I wanted in my mind was, how does Norbert like his guests to show up? Like what makes for a good episode on this show? That's part of my research. So I can show up in the right mindset, the right vein, not thinking about somebody else's show. And so to me, that's getting your research right, knowing the host name, knowing the name of the show, having idea who the listeners are. Like that stuff is absolutely key. To me, these are the 2 top things I see people get really, really wrong. And those are, in my mind, the top contributing factors to what makes a successful guesting appearance.
So quality over quantity. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of marketing, coming from direct response marketing, a lot of paid ads and stuff like that, there's a volume element to that makes marketing successful. So, there's a part of me that's like, oh, we got to increase volume. We got to only 4 podcasts a month. We got to do more of that, right? We got to do more volume. But how has that been in your experience actually guesting? Have you seen that, it's not about volume. It's not about doing 8, 10, 12 shows a month. Just doing 4 shows a month is enough to get results. How's your experience been with that, not having that much volume necessarily?
Yeah, I've tried more at times, and I had a friend, and he must have been doing 30 different shows a month, maybe even more than that. He was going on all of them. I mean, anyone that would have him, he didn't care anything about it. He was just happy to be there, and it went really well for him. And the reality is, I've heard him on so many shows, and he sounded great on all of them. But what I learned about myself is I fatigue, and I don't show up as well as I'd like to. So I've just learned my limit, and maybe it's a natural limit. Maybe it could be extended a little bit, but for right now where I'm at, this is where this is the line, the limit where I'm able to show up in my best possible way for the host and for their listeners. If I do more than this, I can start to even see myself, the fatigue and there's just some diminishing return that comes back, not for me, but for the people that I'm there to serve. And so for me, I built that balance not because I don't think it could grow my business faster if I did more. Maybe it could, but the reality is I don't show up in the best possible light that I can. And that really matters to me. The integrity behind it is really important. So for me, this is the cadence that works. And it's again, maybe not enough for some people, but for me, it's that right amount. And I do see that I can show up really well. And what I'd rather do is one podcast a week really, really well, where it's a slam dunk for me, for the host, for the listeners, and it leaves that long tail legacy effect versus just, yeah, I got the reps in. I got 4 episodes in this month. I don't remember them, but they were probably pretty good. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been my philosophy on it. Because if this is really good, people will share it. And I think about that's something we can learn from TV when it comes to podcasting. Like one of my favorite shows is The Office. Norbert, are you an Office fan?
Oh yeah. I've
Okay,
watched The Office. Yeah.
sweet. Okay. So I pretty much have the whole thing memorized, but I've seen them all. And I say that because there's never been an episode where at the end of it, Michael Scott appears on the screen and says, if you like this, please share it with a friend. And there's a reason for that. It's so good, you don't need to. I'm not saying in podcasting we shouldn't do some of that. Like it's important. Like we're not necessarily like mainstream at that level of our individual show. But if it's good enough and it's like well done, people like to share things that add value to them. And so I have to imagine if I show up really good, I'd rather everyone share it than me go be on all the shows, right? Like let's just get this one out there. And so that's kind of been my philosophy on it. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here necessarily. I have some friends and they're very happy getting on one show a month. And you know what? I love that. That's a great cadence. And what they do is they have 1 month of content to share after they're a guest on a podcast. I think that's brilliant. I love it. Find what works for you and stick with it long term. Because what really matters is doing this for the next 5 years, not saying I'm going to sprint to 100 and be done. No. Let's think long tail. What can you do consistently for 5 years? I can do one show a week for 5 years.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that new entrepreneurs, I don't think they appreciate the need for the consistency and the persistency over a long period of time. This is the thing, right? All right. Why PodMatch? Obviously, you saw a need in the marketplace, and let's just focus specifically on guesting right now. But I find that it can be a little overwhelming when I think about guesting on a podcast. Like, what podcast should I be on? Where do I find these podcasts? How do I send out my pitch, my connection? What do they need to hear from me? All this kind of stuff. There's a lot of questions in the process. What does PodMatch do to simplify that process let's speak to guests first.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this, Norbert. I appreciate it. When I go back to thinking about when I first got into podcast guesting, I think I had a PDF media one sheet, which I later realized wasn't really helpful for podcast hosts because they can't copy paste. They can't pull the images off. Sometimes the links don't work. Like there's all those things where I'm like, now I look back. And so when we started PodMatch, I was like, we're going to help a podcast guest be positioned for success just by setting up their profile. And so basically we take all the things that are on traditional media one sheet that matter to a podcast host. Some of the things we skip, some of the things we add. Basically just setting up your profile works. Now, listen, you can find online, like if you just go to any search engine AI and say like, what are the questions that PodMatch wants for a profile? You can find it. I'm not telling you today that you need PodMatch. I do think what we came up with is like the template of what a media one sheet should look like is really, really good. So just find someone's profile on there and even just copy if you're like, I want to do this myself, but make sure it's something you can update and people can copy paste. Very, very important at the very least. And so to me, it's really important to have the right things that you're responding to so that when a host is ready to book you or thinking about you or wants to review you, they have an idea of the direction you want to go in. And I think that that's the focal point. What direction do you want to go in? And to me, it all begins with why internally. Like, why are we coaches? Why are we doing this? Who is it that we serve? So you kind of have like your why for yourself and then your external why for who it is that you serve. And in podcasting, call this an avatar. So when you're building out that media one sheet, first you got to know your internal why, but then you got to say, who is this for? Who is it going to help? Who is my client? Who's the person I can coach really well? And that's basically what you want to describe when you're setting this type of thing up. And so again, I'm not saying use PodMatch, but you have to have some sort of one sheet where you can send people. And I kind of believe we're past the point where a social media profile could work for that, because there's just so much noise on these things, right? Like you want something that's very focused to say, hey, host, this is me and this is who I serve and this is how I can show up, so that they can start saying, oh yeah, I can see why that'd be valuable for my show. To me, that whole thing, having that media one sheet, that is absolutely critical. And again, we built it out in a way that I think is really helpful for, as a host myself, it's very, very helpful.
Well, I got to tell you, when I first was forced to create my PodMatch profile.
Whoa, that sounds bad. I didn't force you to do it. Someone on your team, right? It wasn't me, or was it?
No, it was me, because I was working on a one sheet and I was struggling with it. This was before AI. This was like a year ago, before I was using AI. And what I was blown away by how much clearer I was when I finished completing that profile. Because oh my God, I finally have everything that I needed, topic ideas, questions that I could be asked, things that I hadn't even thought that I should get clarity on. So honestly, just completing the profile was incredibly helpful, and it just sets you up for success. Who shouldn't be guesting on podcasts? Who shouldn't be guesting on podcasts?
I think if you don't have a lot of clarity about where your business is going or what you're going to do, I think it's maybe too soon. Or if you're even just going 2 or 3 different directions, like you're unsure, like maybe you love golf, but you also love business, but you're still a corporate person as well, and you might get promoted, right? Like it just seems like there's too much going on and it's not a great time for it yet. One thing that's important with these media one sheets that you design, however you decide to design it, is that there has to be some sort of singular direction. You don't want to tell the host, hey, here's 5 things that I do and they're all different. Like that can get confusing for listeners, gets confusing for hosts. You want to have one direction. Like for me personally, everything, if you find my PodMatch profile or any social profile I have, everything only talks about podcasting. A lot of people don't, I love working out. I'm a foodie. My wife and I, we loved it. We both play, we're both competitive athletes. Like, but that stuff is nowhere to be found anywhere for me. I'm not saying we shouldn't find a way to work that in, but my PodMatch profile doesn't say, here's the 100 things I do. I reference them, yes. But again, if it's like hey, I can talk about this, this, and this, that muddies the water a little bit. Now, if you are multifaceted, doing them one at a time can be okay. Like 3 months, I'll do this, and then I'll switch it over to this. You can easily do that. But I think that if you don't have the crystal clarity on where you're going, especially in the online world, it's hard to get noticed. Like even if you have that clear direction, it's hard to get noticed. So I think if you're kind of multifaceted still and you haven't figured out the lane that's going to be the one that you ultimately pursue, it might be too soon for you to start guesting.
Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of a pitch for our workshop, thecompassworkshop.com, because we help you get clarity on the message to market so that you're clear with your messaging. And I say that to people all the time, and I'm going to start using you as an example, because I always use James Clear when I talk about niching down and being known for something and writing the book on something, right? Like he wrote the book on habits. He's an expert on habits, right? That's James Clear. I'll be able to use your example as well now, Alex. So I think
I'm honored to be side by side with James Clear. Like that's a high honor for me today. Thank you.
let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that a guest needs to know that I might be missing out on? Because right now we talked about message. I'm so glad that we brought that up. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Based on what you're just telling me, who shouldn't be podcasting? I'm going to say that if you're just looking to make sales, podcasting is not the thing, is not your solution.
It's not. You're right. I mean, run ads. I mean, for real, like run ads, and that's not a bad strategy. But if you're like, hey, I need to make more sales fast, we've talked about it a few times already. It's the long game. It's not going to be for you. This is how you go really deep with a smaller audience that maybe are the people that buy your highest tier package, right? So, but if you're like, hey, I got to pay the bills, I don't think that podcast guesting is the right place to start. And Norbert, it's very insightful that you brought that up, because I think that you got to be careful with that. If you're showing up just for sales, one, that there's gonna be some friction there between you, the host, and the listener as well, because you're not necessarily leading with value, which I think is a key point of podcast guesting. But I also think that there's quicker ways to bring in some revenue than podcast guesting. It's the long game. Once again, you might hear back in 3 years, like I did, about something, and someone might start working with you at that point, and that's okay, because they might come in at a higher package level again. Because remember that you're developing that know, like, and trust.
You mentioned something there about small audiences, and this is something that I think there's a little bit of a misconception here, because we see these big audience podcasts, these podcasts with big audiences, and we think that's what a successful podcast is. But from your experience and with the many people that you've worked with, how are people profiting and benefiting from small audiences?
It's all about the niche. Like it's all about, it's funny. I just said niche, but there's also that term that riches are in the niches. So I don't really know how to say it, but the point is the same, right? Like the point is the more narrow focus the show is, the more aligned the listener is going to be to whatever that upline focus is. And I think that too many of us, we kind of forget that. Now, if it's a podcast called like Two Bros Talking About Stuff, the show about everything for everything, and they got 10 people listening, you can just assume those are their close friends and family. And it's probably not a great show to be on. Listen, if they're having fun, I think that's one of the beautiful elements of podcasting. Let them have fun. If you just need to get some reps in and they sound like your type of people, go build that relationship. Go have fun. Why not? There are shows I've been on that make zero sense from a business perspective, but I listened to the show and I liked it so much. I'm like, yeah, I want to hang out with these guys for an hour. That sounds fun. Like I've done that plenty of times. But if you're like, hey, like, are smaller shows worth it if I do want some sort of actual return on investment for my business? Absolutely, if the niche is right. The way that I like to compare podcast listeners are the same thing as listeners sitting in seats at a conference. So like imagine a room with 50 people in it and you're on stage and they're all your ideal buyer. That is a good stage to be on, even though there's 50 people on that stage. A podcast is the same thing. If they have 50 listeners and they're potentially your ideal person because the podcast is basically aligned with exactly what you're looking for, that is very valuable. And I know that we're preconditioned by some of the big celebrity shows or even by social media that it's like all driven by big numbers. Both those things are fantastic. They're great. I have no problem with them. It's not the same thing though. And so for me, when I find a podcast about podcasting for people that are in their like second year of their show, like I just found like that the other day, they're like, hey, I'm sorry, I've only got like 40 people listening to every episode. I'm like, that's amazing. Yeah, I'll show up to the room with 40 people that are my ideal client, like perfect. I'm there. Like I'm there every week if you need me. Right. And so I think that we have to get out of this concept and mindset of like big numbers win. No, it's really more aligned numbers win. And it doesn't really matter how big or small that number is. It's just, are they actually who I can show up to serve?
And this is a perfect transition now because you're talking about alignment, you're talking about focus and strategy, and it's 2026 and here's AI. I mean, the changes that we've seen over the last year and now moving into 2026 are going to be immense. I think this year is going to be a big year. I've started playing around with some different agents. I'm seeing some other marketers and colleagues, some of the stuff that they're doing. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty mind blowing. And at the same time, there's a lot of AI slop all over the internet, lots of regurgitated stuff. I mean, LinkedIn is just littered with the same repetitive structure and phrases, and it's just kind of sickening. And this is one of the reasons why we're doing the Clients Cash Flow Collab event in March that you're going to be speaking at as well. I want to hear your thoughts, your opinions. Where do you think the opportunities are considering AI coming in and disrupting the marketplace? I mean, remember when those LLM, what was it? Notebook LLM was coming out with those AI podcasts, and for about a month or so, everyone was really excited about these AI podcasts. To me, I mean, it just sounds like junk. It's just absolute slop. I don't think I would never spend any time doing it. I'm seeing AI videos on YouTube. You can tell it's AI in 5 seconds and you switch off. Where's the opportunities for humans to stand out and for podcasts to stand out in the next year and beyond as AI kind of takes over?
Yeah, I want to answer this question. First, I want to call out a resource for everybody. You had Michael Sealer, I think is how you say his name, on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Listen, everyone, this came out on, just write down this timestamp. It was January 22nd, 2026, and it was titled Beyond Hustle, A Case for Human First Coaching in a Burnout Culture. I highly recommend your next thing after this episode, go listen to that one if you haven't heard it already. One of the things that Michael mentioned is you have to lead by example. And sometimes you have to get into the trenches. And in many ways, the trenches today are you typing something up yourself, you being willing to record yourself, imperfections and all. And the reason I think this is important, and I gave a talk about this just a few months ago that in podcasting went viral, which doesn't mean much, but like it went everywhere. And I talked about the only thing that you need to do to really be successful now is do it yourself. Like, I'm not saying don't use AI. Like we use it in our business, like tons. I mean, like we use it everywhere, but where I'm not going to use it is when I need to respond to an email to Norbert. I'm going to write that myself because you know what? I might be the only person that day that actually handwrites an email. And you know what? It feels different. Even if I use some of the same verbiage, it feels different. And that talk I referenced that went viral, the big point I had in it was that what AI is missing is the human soul. I don't mean to take it like super deep, but the reality is we can feel when something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
We have this thing called our gut. It connects to our soul. And so when someone sends you like a book to review that they like, hey, I wrote this book last night. Check it out. It's 400 pages. And you open it up and you can tell it's AI. It's not that it bothers you, it's AI. Something feels wrong. And everyone who just heard me say that is nodding. They're like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I just think if we can learn to keep our human element involved, where it matters, which is wherever there's a human connection, we can do really, really well. And the thing is, AI has given everyone the opportunity to grow a global brand and to have the perfect words and the perfect videos and everything be polished and beautiful. But it's also made us very lazy. And what I mean by that is everyone who's just going to go ahead and now, like people who used to want to start a business, but now are just going to let AI do it for them. There's a difference between the people still willing to put in the work. And so for me, like I'm that leading by example founder. I'm in the trenches. Like you even said it in the introduction. Like I'm at the front line. I'm willing to actually have a conversation human to human. And it's getting easier and easier for me to convert off of that because I'm maybe the only person doing it anymore.
Yeah, interesting. One of the big topics of that event is collaboration, right? Connection and collaboration, and that's a really powerful topic, extremely underutilized by entrepreneurs online, and I think this can be a competitive advantage personally, especially moving into AI. Talk to me about how important collaboration. I mean, obviously, podcasting collaboration is inherent to podcasting. We are collaborating right now just by doing a podcast together. So obviously, this is an important thing to you. But talk to me about what collaboration means to you and how you see it impacting the success of businesses in the future.
Yeah, this is you're right. Podcasting warrants the ability to build that collaboration. I mean, a podcast recording, if you're not like super media trained, haven't done a million of these, this is a meaningful experience. Typically, you don't forget someone you've done an interview with. And like
Right.
that's the baseline of all friendship is this idea of meaningful experience. Like you never forget the friends you went whitewater rafting with. I say that because I live in Jacksonville, Florida, where it's all flat. We have to travel to do that. So I've only done it a handful of times. But I remember everyone I was with, right? And so I think that having a meaningful experience of any kind is really important. But to answer the question about collaboration, I'll just say this: like, I don't know. I guess everyone just loves a hero story when it comes to an entrepreneur succeeding or a founder succeeding. So people always want to pat me on the back, and not that I don't appreciate that, and it means a lot. I'm not trying to sell myself short. Like I've worked hard, I get that, but there's a line of 100 people that have helped me get where I am, and
Mm.
without every single one of those people that I've collaborated with, and many times I reached up or they reached down to bring me to their level. Without that, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And so as much as I'd love to sit here and take credit for like everything I've done and achieved, the reality is there's a line of 100 people that have helped me get there. And so for me, I'm always looking away to collaborate. And when I've learned a good collaboration is formed off the spot of not, we're going to make a lot of money together. Like that's not the good spot. Or, hey, I know that person. Well, man, my business would grow if I could work with them. It's the opposite. It's, hey, I see what you're doing. And I think if I could show up with you, we could serve at a higher level. We could help somebody at a higher level. And I think when you have that perspective, you get two people with that same mindset, that's a collaboration built on something that actually makes the world a better place, solves a real problem. And the byproduct of making the world a better place and solving problems is that typically we get paid for that, right? Like, especially coaches, like we make someone's life better, we get paid for that outcome for somebody else. And so to me, collaboration's key. And you just want to make sure you're leading from a place of like, hey, how are we going to serve together? How is someone else's life better because of this? And right now I'm actually in the middle of, like, I can't share details on this at the moment, but I'm in the middle of forming the biggest partnership I've ever had. It's, to me, it would be the biggest one I probably ever do. And when I asked, I'm like, why do you all want to work with a little company like mine? And they're like, because the way you serve, they're like, it's the way that you show up. They're like, this is exactly the DNA that we have in our business. And it's what we want to collaborate with. And all I did was show up in the right way. Right. And so I think that for all of us, we have to be thinking, how do we collaborate from that place of value?
And I have to say there's a competitor service to yours. I can't remember their name, to be perfectly honest. Don't tell me the name. I can't remember their name. They had first mover advantage on you. They were out in the marketplace before you, but I can't even remember their name, and I don't recommend them to anybody. I only recommend you because you're the one that I remember that I've had an experience with, and you're the one that's that front-facing leader. Like, you're not just growing your company, you're leading the movement of podcasting. That's kind of what I see and feel from you. So it really goes to show how valuable your approach to growing your business is, and really a testament to that founder-led brand.
Man, thank you. That reinforces everything I just said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, man, I love hearing that. Seriously makes my day. And you're right. Like, and we all have everybody's listening to this. There's somebody who's doing something similar to you, but they might not be doing it in a value driven way. That's your big opportunity.
Yeah. So give me one belief that you hold about podcasting that other podcasters, I don't know about most, but other podcasters, popular podcasters might disagree with.
Yeah, it's do for one what you wish you could do for all. And I think that podcasting is a beautiful way to be able to do that. And so for me, like I don't chase growing my audience. I chase the idea of today, can I find the one person who needs the content that I have out right now? And so for me, it sounds kind of wild in today's world. Like most people like run ads, get bigger guests on, share it more places. And like for me, if I can just find one person to share my podcast with, then it's a win that day. And so I legitimately do that every day. I share my podcast with one person, me intentionally. And it's not just, hey, I thought you'd like this. It's I see the problem they're describing and I go find a backlog episode of my show and say, hey, I saw that you just mentioned this. One of my friends came on my podcast and talked about this. Like, here's that episode. Let me know if I can help any more after that. And typically that's extremely well received. And I just do that one time a day. So for me, like, yeah, I wish I could help everyone who wants to be a podcast guest or host, but the reality is I could probably only help one person today. And I know I can help one person. And so I'm going to just do for one what I wish I could do for all in that day. I don't think that's a popular belief in podcasting by any means, but man, it's so rewarding and fulfilling when you figure out like I actually helped someone with my podcast today. Like what a beautiful thing. And so for me, that's that unpopular belief.
Awesome. Alex, I'm going to ask you one last question here, and then we'll wrap it up because we're getting close to the top of the hour here. We've covered a lot. This was a value-packed episode here. We got a lot of coaches, consultants, experts listening to this podcast. A lot of them are transitioning from corporate. A lot of them have been trying to grow their business and kind of struggling with it. If a coach today were starting from scratch as an entrepreneur yourself, where would you tell them to focus so they don't build their brand and their business on sand?
The very first thing you have to do is you have to know, I talked about it earlier, but you have to know your why. So like that's step one. You've got to know what you're doing. Like what are you doing? And don't go too broad. Find the thing. The next thing you want to do is get into the community that's around that idea, around that problem. So like you want to go from like, hey, this is my passion, this is what I'm doing. And then you want to jump into like, who are the people that are involved in this? Once you find those people, you want to talk to them. You want to actually learn the pulse of this thing. Like, what is it they're struggling with? What is it that they're thriving in? Where are they in general? Like, what can you learn? What can you find? And I'm telling you, you'll find some sort of problem or some sort of gap in the education, in the where people need to be coached, where they need to level up. And then your job is simple. Offer the solution to that problem. Be the solution to that problem. Position yourself that way. But that 4-step method has worked really, really well for me. So it's, again, your area of passion, where you know you can show up. Find the community, get involved in it, be part of it, find that problem and offer the fastest possible solution.
Love it. Alex, tell us a little bit about PodMatch, where people can find you, where they can sign up, all that kind of stuff, so they can get your more of your episodes. Obviously, we're going to have all the links in the show notes here, but just for our listeners as well.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you again for the opportunity. Listen, PodMatch is service connects guest notes for interviews. I've had people say it this way, but they say it works just like a dating app. Listen, it doesn't connect you for dates, connects you for podcast interviews. I've been married too long to use a dating app, but I'm told they work very similar. But listen, if you're like, hey, I might want to get into this guesting thing, I might want to be a host, or I am a guest, or I am a host. If you just go to podmatch.com/free, that's podmatch.com/free. I've got 9 quick ideas on that page that'll help you go further, faster, or even just get started. I don't need your email address or anything like that. They're just the best 9 things I've learned. So that's podmatch.com/free. And I think that's the best place to start.
All right. Fantastic. Alex, thank you so much again for being here, for giving of your time. You're an awesome example of an incredible founder leading an awesome company. And I'm just excited for your growth and this new partnership. I'm excited to hear what that's all about. I'm sure we'll hear about it soon. Good luck with that. This has been a really great conversation. Again, like I said, we're going to leave all the links in the show notes so that you can connect with Alex and get those get the free training that he's got available for you as well. And do join us if you're hearing this before March 4th to 6th, join us for clientscashflowcollab.com. Alex will be one of the speakers there as well, training at that event. So make sure you take advantage of that. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your network and audiences. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future episodes. Alex, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate it.
Norbert, you're an awesome communicator and conversationalist. Thank you. This was a blast to be here today.
All right, fantastic. This has been another conversation between two coaches.